Okay, so now that we signed up with this service, in this lecture, I'm going to show you how to use the SMTP servers offered by this service in order to send fake emails. So first of all, we're going to go on the transactional in here on the top left. And if you scroll down, you'll see that we have all of the information that we need to authenticate with the SMTP servers offered by this website in order to send the fake emails. So right now we just need to use a program in order to authenticate and then send the fake emails. So in Kali, we're going to use a program called Send Email. So I'm going to type its name first. And because this is the first time we're using this program, it's always a good idea to run the program with the -- help argument to see how to use it and all of the available options. So scrolling up, you can see the main usage is send email. We're using the -f argument, and then you set the options. Now, before doing this, the first thing I want to do is set the username and the password using the -xu and the -xp arguments. So our command is going to be send email -xu to give the username. And if we go up, we have the username here, which is johnwick70@gmail.com in my case. So I'm going to copy it and paste it here. Next, we need to set the password. We're going to use the -xp to do that. And if we scroll up, we have the password here. So copy and paste it there. Next, we'll need to specify the server. So we're going to use the -s option. And as you can see, you first give it the server, followed by the port. An example is this. So if we go up, you can see that our server is this one right here. So again, Control-C to copy it. And our port is going to be 587. So going down, we're going to do -s to specify the server. We're going to give it the server that we just copied. And I'm going to type : followed by the port. And as we've seen before, the port is 587. So I'm going to type 587. So far we haven't composed the email yet. All we're doing is we're authenticating with the email server. So this step is very similar to what you do when you go to gmail.com, for example. The first thing that you get asked for is your username and a password. And only once you log in, you can start sending emails. So this is what we're doing right here. We first log in with our username, password, and server. And now that we're logged in, we can go ahead and start composing our email. Now, the cool thing about this is not an ordinary email client. We can actually set the from email. And when the email is delivered, it's going to appear as if it's sent from the from email that we pick in here. Now, from our information gathering stage, we discovered that our target's email is zaid@isecurity.org. And we discovered that this target, Zaid, is linked to another person named Mohammed Asker, and his email is m.asker@isecurity.org. So when picking this from email, you want to make sure that you pick an existing email, something that exists, and you want to make sure that you pick an email that your target usually receives emails from. This increases the chances of your target opening the email, and it will also ensure that the email will be delivered in the inbox and not in the spam. So I'm going to set my from email to m.asker@isecurity.org. Next, we're going to use the -t option to specify the email that we want to send this email to. And our information gathering stage, we know that the email of our target is zaid@isecurity.org. Next, we're going to use the -u argument to specify the title of the email. So I'm just going to say, check out this car. And then we're going to use the -m option to specify the message body. Now, when specifying the title and the message body, you want to keep in mind the person you're pretending to be, the target person, and the relationship between the two. If you're pretending to be a boss or a colleague, then you might want to keep these more formal. But in my case, I'm pretending to be a friend, so I'm going to keep my title and the message casual, and I'm just gonna say, hey man, check out this car, I'm thinking of buying it. And then we want to give him a link to download the Trojan that shows a picture of a car that we created before. So you can upload your Trojan to any file sharing service. I chose to upload it to Dropbox, and I've already logged into my Dropbox account in here. If you don't know how to upload stuff to Dropbox, you simply click on the upload in here, you select the file, and then the file will be uploaded in here. So I'm not going to show you how to do that. It's very simple and there's no point of wasting time on it. I already have the Trojan that shows a picture of the image right here. So I'm just going to click on share to get the link for it, and I'm going to click on copy link. Now let me show you this trick. If I just go in a new tab and paste my download link, you'll see that the file will not be automatically downloaded. I'll first go to Dropbox and then the user will have to click on download to download it. But if we modify the URL and just put a 1 in here instead of the 0, and now I'm just going to copy it first, and if I hit enter, you'll see it'll automatically download the file for the user. And this is exactly what I want. Therefore, I'm just going to go down now and paste the file in here. And that's it. Now, if we hit enter, this message will be sent and delivered to the target, but it's going to say m.asker@isecurity.org in here, while actual messages that come from this person display the person's name. As you can see in here, they will actually say Mohammed Asker. So I want my fake email to appear exactly like a real email coming from this person. Therefore, we're going to need to use an advanced option. So coming back to the terminal window, if you look in here, you can see we can use the O argument to specify advanced options. And the advanced option that we want to use is a message header right here. So I'm going to copy this, and in our terminal, I'm going to do -O to specify an advanced option. And the advanced option that I want to set is a message header. And this message header is going to be the from header. And I want to set this to the name that I wanted to appear in here. In my case, I wanted to say Mohammed Asker. Then we're going to put the from email inside the greater and smaller signs. So again, the from email in my case is m.asker@isecurity.org. And that's it, we're done. Now before hitting enter and sending this message, I'm going to clear the screen, and I just want to walk you through the command just to make sure that you understand what we're doing. So first of all, we're using a program called send email. This is the email client that we're using in order to first authenticate with our email server and then send the email. Then the command is split into 2 stages. The first stage is where we authenticate with the email server. Like I said, this is similar to what you do when you go to Gmail. First, you have to log in, and this is what we're doing here. We're using the -XU argument to specify the email. We're using the -XP argument to specify the password, and -S to specify the server. So if I go up, we got all of this information from the server that we signed up for. So we got it from here. Now, once we log in and authenticate, the next stage is to actually send the email, to compose the message. So we're using the from argument to specify the from email. We're using the -T argument to specify the email we want to send the email to. We're using -U to specify the title, -M to specify the message body. And finally, we used an advanced option to set the message header, and we set the message header to whatever we want to appear beside the email title when the email is delivered in inbox. So we're ready to send this. I'm going to hit enter. And perfect. As you can see, it's saying email is sent successfully. And I'm actually already listening for incoming connections in here in my multi-handler. So let's go to the target. And as you can see, we have a new email. It's coming from Mohammed Asker. So exactly like a legitimate email coming from this person. We can see the subject like we said it, and we can see the body. Now, if we go inside, again, we have a thumbnail of this person. It's showing his name, it's showing his email, it's showing his picture. So it looks legit. It looks like a proper message sent from this person. Now, this person is a friend of mine, and we tailored the message so that it appears as if it's coming from a friend. If I click on the link, you'll see the file will automatically start downloading. Dropbox is not asking us if we actually want to download this. So I'm going to click OK to download it. It's going to go in my downloads. So if we open the downloads, right click and uncompress this, we'll have the GTR with the image, with the proper extension like we've seen before. And if we double click it, we'll see the picture of the car that my friend is trying to buy. So everything looks legit so far. But if we go back to the Tally machine, you'll see that we got a connection from the target, and we basically gained full access to their computer. So if we do there, you'll see all the directories, and basically we can run any system command. Now, the main thing that you want to keep in mind when it comes to this method is that this method is generic. So it works against Windows, Linux, OS X, Android, doesn't really matter. The only thing that you want to make sure is the file that you're sending to the target should work on their target operating system. And I actually cover generating backdoors and credential harvesters and all this cool stuff for all operating systems in my social engineering course. So if you're interested in that, then check out the last lecture of this course, because it includes links to all of my other courses, including the social engineering. So far, we've seen how we can use a service with a default password, or a service that has not been configured correctly, or a service that came with a backdoor and full access to the target computer. We also seen how the basic use of Metasploit using to connect to a backdoor that was installed on the FTP service. Today we're going to have a more advanced look on Metasploit, and we'll see how we use it to run a vulnerability that exists in a certain service. It's a code execution vulnerability, which will give us full access to the target computer as well. So, back to our results here with Nmap, and we're going to do the same thing that we've been doing for a while. We copy the service name and see if it has any vulnerabilities. So for today, we're having a look on this particular port 139, which has a Samba server version 3.x. So 3 point anything really. So we're going to go to Google just like we did in the previous videos, and we're going to look for Samba 3x exploit. Now, as you can see, there's a number of results. The one that we're interested in, the ones that come in from Rapid7, because as I said, these are the people that make Metasploit. So the exploits that you see there can be used through Metasploit. So we have two examples here. Now, I've actually tried both. The first one doesn't work, so there is a bit of trial and error in this. And the second one is the usermap script. It's a command execution vulnerability, as you can see here. So the name of the vulnerability is this. So it's the same thing that we used before with the evil backdoor in the FTP service. This is just a different name that we're going to use. So I'm going to go to Metasploit, and I've already run MSF console. You can see that the console is running here for me. So I'm going to do a use like we did before yesterday, and then I'm going to put the name of the exploit that I want to use. Then the next thing that we usually do is show options like we did yesterday. So I'm going to do show options. So using these exploits is always pretty much the same. The only difference is the options that you set for each exploit. So you always do use, and then you put the exploit name, and then you do a show options to see what you can change to work with this exploit. So in the future, you probably will get different exploits than what I have. So every time you want to run an exploit, you do a use exploit name, and then you do show options to see the options that you want to configure. But using the exploit and setting the options and running them is always the same. So I'm showing you a few examples that should cover pretty much everything that you want to do in the future. So again, we need to set up the R host, which is the IP of the target computer. And we're going to do it the same way that we did before. As I said, it's setting the options is always the same. So we're going to do set R host, and then we're going to put the IP of the target computer, which is 10.20.14.204. So exactly like we did before, we're using the set to use an option, which is the R host. So we're going to do a show options. And as you can see now, the R host has been set correctly. What we need to do now is, here is where things differ from the previous lecture. In the previous lecture, we used a backdoor that was already installed on the target computer. So all we had to do is connect to the backdoor, and then we could run any commands, any Linux commands on the target computer. In today's video, the target computer does not have a backdoor. It has a null program that has a buffer overflow or a code execution vulnerability. So the program doesn't have any code that allow us to run Linux commands. It has a certain flaw that will let us run a small piece of code. These small pieces of code are called payloads. So what we need to do, we need to create a payload and then run it on the target computer using the vulnerability that we found. That piece of code will allow us to do different things. So the payload is what allows us to do things that are useful to us. Now the payload might let us do Linux commands, and there is other type of payloads we'll look at in the future. So to see the payloads that you can use with this particular exploit, all you have to do is run show payloads. And these are the different type of payloads that you can use. Now I'm going to talk about this again. So payloads are small pieces of code that will be executed on the target computer once the vulnerability has been exploited. So when we exploit the vulnerability, the code that we're going to pick here will be executed. And depending on the type of payload we choose, that payload will do something that is useful to us. So right now you can see that all the payloads are CMD. So that's short for command. So they let you run command on the target computer, just like Linux commands. And all of them only run on Unix, and that's okay because our target is Linux. And there is two main types. There is bind payloads and there is reverse payloads. The bind payloads, all they do is they open a port on the target computer, and then we connect to that port. The reverse, they do the opposite. So they open a port in my machine, and then they connect from the target computer to my machine. This is useful because the reverse allows us to bypass firewalls. So the firewall will filter any connections going to the target machine. But if the target machine connects to me and I don't have a firewall, then I'll be able to bypass the firewall. So I'm going to use the CMD Unix reverse, or actually I'll use the CMD Unix reverse netcat. The last parts of these payloads are the programming language or the tool that's used to facilitate the connection. So for example, you can see there's payloads written in Perl, in Ruby, or in Python, PHP, or using netcat, which is a tool that allows connections between computers. So this is the one that I'm going to use. And I'm going to use it the same way you use an exploit. So I'm just going to say, I'm going to use it using the set command. So the same way you set an option, we're going to set payload. So just like an option to the payload name that we just picked. Now I'm going to do a show options to see if there is any other options that I need to set. And yes, because we picked a payload now, there is more options. So there is an option called lhost, and it's the listening address, which is my own address. So I'm going to get my own IP address using ifconfig. And my own address is 10.20.14.203. So I'm going to close this. And I'm going to set the lhost. So it's like the same way that we set the R host before. We set the lhost to 10.20. So before we used to do set R host to set this option. Now we're setting the lhost to set this particular option. So set is really simple. Set, you put the option name, then the value that you want to set it to. Then I'm going to do show options. And now everything seems fine. So we're using this exploit. The R host is set to this, which is okay. And then the L host is set to this, which is perfect. And then you can also set the port that you're going to be listening on your current computer. You can actually set it to 80 if you wanted to. That's the port that is used by web browsers. So if you set the L port to 80, the target computer will try to connect to you using port 80, which is never filtered on firewalls because that's the port that web browsers or web servers use. So whenever you access a website, you actually access port 80 on that website. So if you open port 80 on your machine and the target connects to you on 80, then the firewall will think that the target is only browsing the internet. I'm not going to do that now because I have a web server running on port 80 and that will conflict. So I'm just going to set the L port to 555, just for example for you, just to see that you change any option using the same way, which is set, the option name, and then the value. I'm going to do show options again. And as you can see, this has been changed to 5555. And I'm going to do exploit to run the exploit. Now, as you can see, it's telling me that session 1 has been opened and the connection is between this device and this device, which is the target and my device. So I'm going to do a PWD or I do an ID. You'll see that I'm root. If I do a uname A, you'll see I'm in the Metasploitable machine. And if I do an ls, I'll be able to list the files and so on. I can use any Linux command just like we did before. Okay, so now we know that we can put any code we want here and it's going to be executed on the system. So let's have another look now at the statement. So the statement says select star from accounts where username is equal to the username that we put here and password is equal to the password that we put there. Let's see if we can use that to log in without using a password, without even knowing the password. And I'm going to be doing that with the admin. So with the admin, the username is going to be admin. And I don't know what the password is for the admin. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put anything. So nothing really, any random password. And in the code, what I should run here, we were doing and 1 is equal to 1 and or stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do or instead of and I'm going to say 1 is equal to 1. So what's our code is going to be? Once I run this, once I inject this, this is going to go in here like we were doing before. So our code is going to look like this. So it's going to be select star from accounts where username is equal to admin and password is equal to AAA. Now this is wrong. Or 1 is equal to 1, which is right. So anytime you have an or, if the or condition is right, everything is right. That's the or statement works. So select star from accounts where username is equal to admin. Okay, username is equal to admin. And password is equal to AAA. That's wrong. Or 1 is equal to 1. Okay, I'll accept that. And then it's actually going to execute it and let us log into the admin without even knowing the password for the admin. So let's try to inject this now. And as you can see, I was able to log in as admin and monkey is the signature for the admin. Now, bypassing logins can be done in so many ways, depending on the code that's written on the page and depending on the way you want to do it and how you're imagining the code. In a lot of the cases, when you put the single quote here, you won't see this message. Sometimes you do see it, which makes your job so much easier. If you don't, then you kind of need to guess what it looks like. I'm going to show you another example of bypassing. Instead of injecting the code like this, the admin parameter is actually injectable as well. As you've seen when I put the single quote, the admin parameter is injectable exactly the same way as the password. So we can inject code in the username as well. And what I'm going to do now, so let's have a look on this. And I'm just going to reset it to the way it would usually look. So you'd have, and the username and the password are the fields that whatever you put in here are going to be substituted in the username and the password. So let's try to inject something in the username. And what I'm going to say is I'm going to say username is equal to admin. And then I'm going to close the quote myself. And then I'm going to add a comment. So my statement, when I run this statement, it's going to look like this. And I'm actually just going to copy it here. And when I put this code in here in my name, it's going to inject that in there. So this is what the code is going to look like. It's going to select star from accounts where username is equal to admin. I close the quote myself here using this right there. And then I'm adding a comment. So basically all of this is not even going to be executed. So the code is going to be this. It's going to be select star from accounts where username is equal to admin. And it's going to let me log in without even entering anything in the password. So let's do this. I'm going to put my username as admin. And I close the quote and add a comment. And then you can put any password you want really. I'm just going to put number 1. And then I'm going to log in. And as you can see, I managed to log in as admin. So again, this is black box testing, so you don't really see the code. In many cases, you want to be playing around with it and see how it works with you. But the main thing is you want to test if the SQL injection exists. And you'd use that using the method we showed you in the previous video. So try a single quote, try the AND statement, try a true AND statement, so 1 is equal to 1, and then a false AND statement, so 1 is equal to 0 or 2 is equal to 0. And if they work as expected, then your target has an SQL injection and you can start playing around. Okay, now let's see how we can build up an attack strategy against the target, which is Zaid, a person named Zaid. Before I do any of that, I just want to do this in front of you. Just organize my workspace so that we can think of it properly and come up with ideas. So I'm going to delete all of these websites because they didn't really contain any useful information. So I'm just going to keep the only one that had useful information was Udemy, and that's the only one that I'm going to keep. And I'm going to move this here. And I'm going to put Zaid here on the top. And I'm just going to click and drag from here to the email address so that we'll know that Zaid is associated with the email address. I'm just going to click OK. And you can see now Zaid is associated with this email, which led us to iSecurity. And then we're actually going to just add another arrow from Zaid to my Twitter account. And again, so that just we know that this Twitter account is associated with this person. And we have an entity here of Udemy. We also know that Muhammad Askar right here has this email. So it has m.askar@isecurity.org. So we know that this person, this email is associated with this person. And the email is at isecurity.org, then this person is probably, or most definitely, is associated with isecurity.org as well. So, and if you actually do a Google search, you'll see that this guy is the admin of iSecurity. So then we're just going to put an arrow from here to here. And I'm going to do the same with Mustafa because you can see we have his email there. And we'll also associate iSecurity with this person. And I'll just move him here and move this guy there. I'm gonna move him here. I know I made a mess out of this, but it's much easier when it looks clean. Okay, now this is much better. Now let's zoom in a little bit. Okay, perfect. So our target is Zaid, and we know Zaid uses Udemy and teaches courses there. We were also able to see his blog. We were able to see his YouTube, LinkedIn, and all that stuff already. Now that on its own can make me think of so many ways to attack Zaid. We can, looking at how active he is on Udemy, we can just pretend to be a person from Udemy. So we can pretend to be someone from the admins of Udemy and send him a program, for example, and tell him this is our new beta program that we're only given to special instructors. This way Zaid will feel privileged because he's getting something that other instructors are not getting, and he'll that file. And once he runs that file is going to be a Trojan. So that file can be a backdoor or a keylogger or a program that will steal his passwords or allow us to do anything we want with the target computer. Now again, like I've said in this section, we're not going to be talking about the technical stuff. We'll talk about that in future lectures and you'll know how to do this. So when I say we'll send him a file that looks like a normal file, we'll actually be able to do that. And this normal file, it'll be a normal program, but at the background, it'll do what we want it to do. We can also pretend to be from YouTube, from the blog, from WordPress, from Udemy again, and ask him to reset their password and give them a link that has a login page exactly the same as the login page of Udemy or YouTube. And once they put on their password, we'll actually get that password. So the possibilities are endless there, and we'll talk about ideas on how to do all of that later on. Looking at the connections that we can see here with iSecurity, we can see that this person has a lot of connections with this company or with this website. We can see that he has an email at isecurity.org. So again, this email is really useful because this is how we're going to be communicating with Zaid. You can also communicate with him through Udemy, obviously, as sending as messages, but I'm pretty sure that his friends, and yes, my friends, don't really communicate with me over Udemy. So if you to target Zaid using his email, that's another way to do it. And we have his friends. So we have one of his friends right here, Muhammad, and you can see there's so many connections between him and Zaid. They're both friends on Twitter, they're both active on iSecurity, and they both have at isecurity.org email. So this makes you think they're not only work colleagues, they're probably friends as well. And exploiting this friendship, you can send stuff to Zaid asking him about anything really. You can show him pictures of a car that you want to buy, for example. You can send him PDFs because you know that both of these guys are interested about computer security. They're running a security website, and you can just send him a PDF saying, oh, look at my new ebook. And when you open the PDF, again, it'll run a file that you want it to run on the system. That'll give you gain access on Zaid's system. Now, again, when you send an email, you will be able to send an email that looks exactly as if it's coming from Muhammad. You can do the same with Mustafa. So you can send stuff to Zaid. You can send him stuff that they're interested in. You can send him just pictures. You can send him links to ask him to log in and do something. The possibilities, again, are endless when it comes to social engineering. Not only that, but let's say you tried everything and you couldn't hack into Zaid's system. You tried to pretend to be all these people. You tried all the ideas that you can think of, and you couldn't reach Zaid's system. This is not the end of the world. What you could do is you can actually try to hack into one of his friends. So you try to hack into Muhammad's computer. You can try to hack into Mustafa's computer. From there, try to get into their Facebook and then communicate with Zaid over Facebook from their Facebook account, because you can't really send a message that looks like it's coming from Muhammad on Facebook. We can only do that with emails. But again, you can hack into these guys' Facebook's accounts and then try to hack into Zaid. Why not hack into their accounts, hack into iSecurity? Because you know these people are admins. They have at iSecurity emails, and they're, even if you research their names, you'll see that they're admins. Why not hack into their computers, hack into iSecurity, and Zaid definitely browses iSecurity, so embed a backdoor in there or change one of the files that's hosted into iSecurity into a backdoor, and then once Zaid downloads it or uses it, you'll be able to hack into his computer. Now again, don't get overwhelmed about all the information that I'm saying at the moment. We will take this step by step, and you'll learn how to send these fake emails, how to create these backdoors, how to create these keyloggers, and all that cool stuff in the next sections of this course. For now, I just wanted to show you how powerful Maltego is and how you can use it to gather information about anything really. Like, we started with just a name. Literally, we started with Zaid Sabi, and we were able to gather information about his websites, his blog, his YouTube, his friends, his emails, anything. Like, we literally profiled the whole person. And again, this person is a techie person, a person who is interested into information technology, so he's very careful with what to share, but we were still able to gather enough information to build up an attack strategy. If you do this against a normal person, you'll be surprised about the amount of information that you'll be. Hello and welcome to this course where I'm going to teach you ethical hacking from scratch. So I'm going to assume that you have no prior knowledge, and by the end of it, you'll be at a high intermediate level, being able to hack computer systems exactly the same way that black hat hackers do. Not only that, but I'm also going to teach you how to secure systems from these attacks. My name is Zaid. I'm an ethical hacker, a computer scientist, and I'll be your instructor in this course. This course is going to be highly practical, but it won't neglect the theory. So we'll start by covering some terminology and showing you how to set up the needed software and create a penetration testing lab so you can practice hacking safely and legally. Then we'll move to the main penetration testing sections. The first is the network hacking section, where you'll learn how networks work, how devices communicate with each other, and how to exploit this method of communication to control all the connections around you, crack Wi-Fi keys, and gain access to Wi-Fi networks, whether they use WEP, WPA, or WPA2, and intercept data to capture usernames, passwords, chat messages, or anything that anybody does on the same network. Once done with this, we'll move to the gaining access section, where you'll learn how to gain access to servers and personal computers. So first, you'll learn how to gather comprehensive information about your target, discover vulnerabilities, and exploit them to gain full control over the target system. Not only that, but you'll also learn how to generate undetectable backdoors and use social engineering to deliver them to your target as a fake update or as a PDF or an image or any other file that they may be interested in. You'll also learn how to spoof emails, so when they're delivered to your target, they appear as if they're sent from a friend, from their boss, or from any address that they're likely to interact with. Once done with all of this, we'll move to the post-exploitation section, where you'll learn what can you do with the access that you gained in the previous sections. So you'll learn how to scam and even use the hacked computer to hack into other computers. Once done with all of this, we'll move to the website hacking section, where you'll learn how websites work, how to gather comprehensive information about a target website, and how to discover and exploit dangerous vulnerabilities that allow you to gain full control over the target. At the end of each section, you'll learn how to secure systems and secure yourself from the discussed attacks. By the end of the course, you're going to learn a number of techniques and attacks, and you'll understand the mechanism behind them. So you'll be able to mix these attacks so that you can adapt them to different scenarios and different situations. With this course, you'll get 24/7 support, so if you have any questions, you can ask them in the Q&A section and we'll respond to you within 15 hours. For more information about the course, check out the teaser lecture and the preview lectures down.